He's trying to prove one thing, that he is the secret son of Prince Charles and Camilla.
55-year-old Simon Charles Dorante-Day was put up for adoption after being born in 1966, but he says he has proof that his birth parents are in fact the Prince of Wales and the Duchess of Cornwall. He joins us now from his home in Brisbane.
Think of a random man who claims that he's the rightful heir to the British throne. Meet Simon Dorante-Day, the Aussie man who's making headlines with an astonishing claim. He's the secret son of King Charles III and Queen Camilla. For years, he's been pushing for answers, demanding justice, and even seeking DNA evidence to prove his lineage. But could there be more to this story than meets the eye? Hang on tight, because we're about to explore his extraordinary pursuit for royal recognition.
Joins us now from his home in Brisbane to tell us more. So good morning, Simon.
Good morning.
Extraordinary claims. Not the first time this has happened to the royal family. But where did this belief start?
Well, the belief started in 1994. Really, we started looking at who my parents were when my first son, Simon, was born. And I said to my wife, he had blue eyes. And my wife said, well, where did the blue eyes come from? And I said, well, I had blue eyes. And she said, oh, you didn't tell me that before. And she said, what age did they change? And I said, 8. So she said, what, 8? And that's where it started. And then when I went to see Nana in 1998, when she was passing away, and I managed to get a small conversation with her while my adoptive mother wasn't around, and I put a picture in front of her. It was in the newspaper of Charles and Camilla, and I said, is this them? And she said, yes. And I was already looking at that stage.
So your adopted grandparents used to work for the royal household at the time, and so it's your belief that your grandparents were sort of entrusted with you because they worked with the family.
That's correct, Holly. Granddad was a gardener and Nana was a cook. I say in a royal household because that's what I was told. I'm not sure which one, but they were working in a royal household.
Simon Dorante-Day was born back in 1966 in the English town of Gosport, and by all accounts, it was a bit of a mysterious and intriguing entry into the world. He was soon taken in by a couple named Karen and David Day, who were known to have ties to the British royal household. As Simon grew older, some strange things started cropping up in his family history. Whispers about his birth and more subtle hints that led him to believe his lineage might be a bit different than he was being told. But, of course, the most explosive revelation would come much later, when Simon reportedly said his adoptive grandmother let slip an explosive secret, that his biological parents were none other than the then Prince Charles and Camilla Rosemary Shand, now the Queen Consort.
One of the first things I did once my grandmother told me back in 1998 when I got back to Australia, one of the first things we did was get all the biographies that we could at the time and look this thing up and look at the times to see where Charles and Camilla were, who otherwise could be involved. I mean, just because your grandmother said it doesn't mean you're going to believe it. I did do my research. So the timelines are gaps, and people need to come forward and come clean. I mean, this is. People seem to think I'm getting a big name and money out of this. I'm not getting anything out of this. This is costing me to do this. We're forced to do this because we're tired of moving around Australia hiding this secret that's not our secret.
So why should some bloke from Australia be convinced he's the secret son of the British monarch? Well, according to Simon, his suspicions grew as he started digging into his background, finding that all sorts of questions remained about his adoption papers and birth records. That catapulted him into a quest for answers, launching him from private investigation to very public allegations. You see, the timeline of Simon's birth lines up pretty neatly with the Charles and Camilla history he's maintaining, hinting that the two were an item during their tender years, despite the strict protocols against that sort of thing within the royal family. But getting any recognition hasn't exactly been easy for Simon. His initial approach to the royal family, in fact, fell on deaf ears. A silence that, to him, was as loud as a statement. He reckons it was all part of a massive cover-up, a theory that just kept growing with every letter ignored and phone call not returned. Now, Dorante-Day's claims haven't exactly been welcomed with open arms by the monarchy at large or much of the public. But that doesn't seem to be dampening his spirits one bit. Every unanswered question stands as testimony, in his mind, to some hidden truth that's just waiting to be unraveled. Determined to get the legitimacy he believes is his, Simon's been putting together whatever information he can about his so-called parentage. He scoured historical records, traced timelines, and even pressed for a DNA test in court against Charles himself. Why hasn't this test been granted, and what would it reveal? Well, the thing is, the British royal family is all about tradition and decorum, and Simon's claims of wanting a paternity test strike right at the heart of those carefully guarded values. If his claim even remotely holds value, it wouldn't just be disruptive for his own life. It could actually shake the monarchy itself and make the world reconsider what it thinks it knows about the royals. Now, despite the skepticism, Simon's supporters point to his uncanny resemblance to Charles and Camilla, not to mention his sheer doggedness in pursuing this. Stories like his, which have captivated people across the globe, are the kind where some see his struggle as emblematic of a much larger issue, the lengths those in power will go to keep a truth from surfacing.
Wow, Simon joins us now from Brisbane. Thanks for joining us. Look, you've fought for decades to prove this, even take you to court. Why should anyone believe you?
Well, listen, good morning, Koshi. Good morning, Nat. Well, I think the evidence speaks for itself. I mean, the face is what gives it away. That's what's caused the recent issue with Liam's photo. It was just a photo I put up that we were in the weekend in Bribey Island fishing, and I just shared it with the people on the page, and the lady took the photo and changed it to black and white, rotated it, and put it alongside the Queen. I mean, I see it every day. You know, every day when I get up in the morning and the kids speak to me, the first thing I see when I turn around is that.
But is Simon really convinced he deserves royal recognition? Or is his fight driven by something deeper? The need to find out who he really is and where he fits in. What sets this bloke apart is his persistence. Years of ridicule and official silence have been met time and time again by his steady presence in the media, speaking to anyone who will listen to his story, getting closer to the truth with each appearance. Charles and Camilla's romance isn't your typical royal love story. It's a saga that started long before the public really came to know what was going on. While their official relationship timeline goes back to the early 1970s, there have been whispers for years about a closer-than-friendship dynamic between these two. This isn't some storybook royal meets commoner tale. Either Charles and Camilla were drawn to each other in a way that defied all the conventional expectations. They first crossed paths at a polo match back in 1970. The young Prince of Wales and this vibrant commoner whose outgoing personality soon won his admiration. But theirs was never going to be a straightforward love story. Charles was dispatched on duty, and by 1973, Camilla had gone and married Andrew Parker Bowles.
Charles and Camilla's love story is long and complicated. Before the prince married Diana in 1981, he was allegedly still in love with one of his former girlfriends, Camilla Parker Bowles. Their love story has been well documented over the years, with Diana famously addressing the rumour in this BBC interview.
But despite Camilla tying the knot, her affair with Charles was anything but over. When the two reunited in the mid-1980s, even though Charles was very much still married to Princess Diana, their romance became the talk of the town.
Well, there were 3 of us in this marriage, so it was a bit crowded.
Now let's fast forward to Simon Dorante-Day's claims. His timeline for adoption cuts right into the time when Charles and Camilla were reportedly inseparable. He was born in 1966, and he says he was adopted at a small age, which just so happens to line up with his belief that Charles and Camilla may have had a kid in secret. The plot thickens even further when you factor in all the secrets, family dynamics, and the royal protocols dictating who a young prince could and couldn't marry. The firm had worked overtime to keep Charles's relationship with Camilla secret by the time he tied the knot with Diana in 1981. But, as we all know, that marriage was anything but a fairy tale, what with Diana eventually blowing the lid off Charles and Camilla's ongoing romance.
1993, an intimate conversation between Camilla and Charles was leaked, confirming the couple's illicit relationship. It ultimately led to the end of Charles' marriage to Diana and Camilla's marriage to her husband, Andrew Parker Bowles. At the time, Charles refused to give in to the speculation.
She has been a friend for a very long time, and along with a lot of other friends, and will continue to be a friend for a very long time.
But in 2005, the pair finally tied the knot, celebrating their 15th wedding anniversary last April.
Simon's story fits right into that period, leaving many folks wondering, could the royal family have actually orchestrated an adoption?
But one Aussie isn't convinced the world knows their true story. Simon Dorante-Day claims to be their secret love child, and he says this photo is the key to unlocking the 55-year-old mystery.
Simon Dorante-Day has spent years chasing the one thing that would prove his claim once and for all, a good old-fashioned DNA test. And each time he's gotten close, the silence from the family at the other end has been deafening. But that sure hasn't deterred him. Simon's journey through the courts and public pleas reflects his unwavering drive to uncover the truth. He's taken every legal avenue to stand up for himself, even going to the UK courts. Now, these courts have put up one heck of a fight against him, but this bloke, Simon, who's been refused again and again, hasn't lost that determination one bit. But why has the royal family sidestepped Simon's request for a DNA test? Well, for starters, such a test would come with some major consequences. Not just for Simon, but for the monarchy as a whole. Just imagine what kind of fallout there'd be if Simon's claims turned out to be true. It'd be a spotlight shown on certain aspects of the royals' lives that they'd probably prefer stayed firmly in the back of the closet, raising all sorts of questions about legacy, secrecy, and procedure. Outside the palace walls, Simon's been swept up in a tide of media coverage, with some champions in his corner and plenty of doubters branding him an attention seeker. But one question that lingers is, why hasn't the monarchy given a clear answer? To outsiders looking in, this can only add more mystery on top of mystery. As Simon Dorante-Day himself said, if there's nothing to hide, why not take the test and put the rumors to bed? Simon Dorante-Day's journey from obscurity to international intrigue has relied not only on his sheer persistence, but also on the convincing bits of proof that he and his believers' claims are incontrovertible. The supposed physical likenesses have really formed the backbone of this conspiracy. Simon's posted all sorts of side-by-side snaps of himself and his kids alongside members of the British royal family, and the facial similarities are downright uncanny. Some of these pics, especially the ones comparing his son to a young Queen Elizabeth, are so spot on that plenty of onlookers are convinced these can't just be a coincidence. Simon Dorante-Day said, "My grandmother, who had worked for the Queen, told me outright that I was Camilla and Charles' son many times. She didn't just hint at it, she told me outright." Simon's story extends past the photos and family accounts to social media, where a growing band of supporters hangs on his every move. The regular updates, court battles, and media interviews he provides, his followers have created a real sense of loyalty towards his cause. Many insist Simon's tale isn't about royal intrigue at all, but more to do with his rights to know who he is biologically.
Now, a Brisbane man who claims to be the secret love child of Prince Charles and Camilla has sparked fierce debate after sharing what he says is new photographic evidence.
Simon Dorante-Day believes he is the Duke and Duchess of Cornwall's son, born out of wedlock and adopted to a family who had strong ties to the Queen.
According to Simon Dorante-Day, this isn't about scandal, it's about peace of mind and proving his family connection.
This is. People seem to think I'm getting a big name and money out of this. I'm not getting anything out of this. This is costing me to do this. We're forced to do this because we're tired of moving around Australia hiding this secret that's not our secret.
Yeah.
You know, that's one of the problems that we've had.
Jamie Lee Curtis has just confirmed the complex truth about her father, Hollywood legend Tony Curtis, a man whose life behind the scenes was as turbulent as his rise to fame was spectacular. Beneath his Hollywood charm lay deep personal struggles, including battles with addiction, fractured family ties, and a final will that disinherited his children and sparked a bitter family feud. As Jamie Lee opens up about her father's legacy, she tells a story of resilience, heartbreak, and the human cost of fame that reshapes how we remember Tony Curtis and his lasting impact. Tony Curtis, born Bernard Schwartz on June 3, 1925 in the Bronx, New York City, faced numerous hardships during his early life. His parents, Helen and Emanuel Schwartz, were Hungarian Jewish immigrants who struggled to make ends meet. The family lived in poverty, and young Tony, along with his brothers Julius and Robert, often went hungry. These difficult circumstances had a profound impact on Curtis's life and shaped his determination to succeed. Tragically, when Curtis was just 12 years old, his younger brother Julius died after being hit by a truck. This devastating loss further compounded the family's emotional and financial struggles. Despite these challenges, Curtis remained focused on finding a way out of his impoverished circumstances. He attended Seward Park High School but faced frequent bullying due to his family's poverty and his Jewish heritage. Curtis found solace in movies, dreaming of a life beyond the hardships he endured. At the age of 16, Curtis joined a neighborhood gang seeking protection and camaraderie. However, his life took a pivotal turn when he enlisted in the United States Navy during World War II. Inspired by the likes of Cary Grant and Tyrone Power, Curtis served aboard the USS Proteus, a submarine tender, until the end of the war. This experience not only provided him with an escape from his troubled past, but also instilled in him a sense of discipline and purpose. Upon his return from the war, Curtis was determined to pursue his dream of becoming an actor. He studied at the dramatic workshop of the New School in New York City, honing his craft under the tutelage of the influential German director Erwin Piscator. It was during this time that Curtis caught the attention of Joyce Selznick, a prominent talent agent who recognized his potential and helped him secure a contract with Universal Pictures. As Curtis made his way to Hollywood, he shed his birth name and adopted the stage name Tony Curtis, a nod to the novel Anthony Adverse and a maternal family name, Kurtz. His striking good looks and undeniable charisma quickly earned him a place among the emerging stars of the era, such as Rock Hudson and James Best. Curtis's early roles in films like Criss Cross, 1949, and City Across the River, 1949, showcased his magnetic screen presence, setting the stage for his meteoric rise to stardom. Throughout the 1950s, Curtis's career soared with the iconic film The Prince Who Was a Thief, 1951, cementing his status as a leading man. He went on to star in numerous successful films, including Houdini, 1953, Trapeze, 1956, and Sweet Smell of Success, 1957. His versatility as an actor was evident in his ability to tackle both dramatic and comedic roles with equal aplomb. However, behind the glitz and glamour of his Hollywood persona, Curtis's personal life was far from perfect. In 1951, he married actress Janet Leigh, forming one of the most iconic couples of the era. Together, they had two daughters, Kelly and Jamie Lee Curtis, who would later follow in their famous parents' footsteps. Despite their picture-perfect image, cracks began to appear in their marriage, and the couple divorced in 1962. Curtis's personal struggles extended beyond his tumultuous marriages. He battled with substance abuse, particularly during the 1970s and 1980s as his career began to decline. His dependency on alcohol and drugs took a toll on his health and professional prospects. In 1984, Curtis's addiction reached a critical point when he was rushed to the hospital with advanced cirrhosis. This harrowing experience served as a wake-up call, prompting him to seek treatment at the Betty Ford Clinic and commit to sobriety. Despite these challenges, Curtis managed to stage a remarkable resurgence in his later years. He garnered critical acclaim for his chilling portrayal of Albert DeSalvo in the 1968 film The Boston Strangler, reminding audiences of his immense talent. Curtis also found solace in his lifelong passion for painting, dedicating more time to his artwork as his acting career slowed down. His paintings were exhibited in prestigious galleries, and he found a new sense of purpose and fulfillment through his creative endeavors. Tony Curtis has passed away in 2010 due to cardiac arrest. His sixth and final wife, Jill Vandenberg Curtis, discussed her late husband's life, legacy.
Just a great down-to-earth guy. He loved all of his fans, and I just really appreciate everybody who's been contacting us. I know Tony would appreciate to know that everybody around the world that's loved him all these years still loves him and will always think of him. And he died peacefully here, surrounded by those who love him and have been caring for him. In his bedroom, in his, where he loved to be and hang out. And I'm very happy for that. I'm very happy we made the decision to bring him home from the hospital and let him be here at home and be peaceful. And he fell asleep, and he passed in his sleep.
How's his health been last few months or so?
Well, he's been in and out of the hospital. Tony had COPD and very bad lung problems from smoking. About 30 years ago he quit, but his lungs never worked the way they should have. And so he always was fighting that. And his heart survived things that Tony would always say would have killed an ordinary man. And that's absolutely true. But this time his heart was ready to go and be at peace.
What was he most proud of among all the accomplishments that he had?
I think being a painter. And all Tony ever wanted to be was a movie star. Didn't want to be, the most dramatic actor, and he wanted to be a movie star ever since he was a little kid. It was Tony. They don't make people like Tony anymore. And
have you heard from Jamie or any of the family yet? What did they say?
I spoke to some of the kids last night, and my family's flying in to come and be with us. So all of his friends and family are going to be around, those that love him and have been caring for him the last few years.
How do you think he wants to be remembered?
I think Tony would want to be remembered as a nice guy, a kind person, a funny guy, someone who worked very hard his whole life, had great drive. And one thing Tony always said, there was a quote that he always loved, and he said, "God is great, he won't hurt us, 'cause he looks like Tony Curtis." And so I guess now he knows how he looks, and I'm sure he's happy to see that. I just wanted to say thanks for...
Thank you. We didn't want to knock on the door, obviously, but we did want to get a nice tribute out for him because...
He deserves it. Tony deserves it. He didn't get all of the acclaim that he should have gotten throughout his life, and I know Tony's had some personal problems and things, but haven't we all?
Yeah.
And in the end, his kindness and generosity and gentle spirit prevailed over everything. And that's how I think he should be remembered. A good friend and a good husband.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you, guys.
However, the final years of Curtis's life were marred by a bitter family feud over his estate. When he passed away in 2010, it was revealed that he had made the controversial decision to disinherit all his children in his will, leaving his entire estate to his sixth and final wife, Jill Vandenberg Curtis. This DEI closure sent shockwaves through the family, with Curtis's children, particularly his daughter Allegra, openly expressing their hurt and anger over the situation. Allegra Curtis criticized Jill Vandenberg Curtis for her handling of their father's estate, particularly her decision to auction off his personal belongings and memorabilia. Allegra argued that these items held deep sentimental value and should have remained within the family. The dispute escalated into a legal battle, with Allegra and her sister Kelly challenging the validity of the will. They claimed that their father was not of sound mind when he made the decision, and that undue influence may have played a role. However, despite their efforts, the court ultimately upheld the will, leaving Jill Vandenberg Curtis as the sole beneficiary. Amidst the family turmoil, Jamie Lee Curtis, Tony Curtis's daughter from his marriage to Janet Lee, remained notably silent on the matter of the inheritance. Unlike her half-sisters, Jamie Lee did not contest the will or publicly express any resentment toward her father's decision. In fact, she appeared to have come to terms with the complexities of her relationship with her father long before his passing. Jamie Lee Curtis, who had achieved significant success in her own acting career, had spoken candidly about the challenges of growing up in the shadow of her famous parents. While she acknowledged the impact of their fame on her life and career, she also emphasized her own hard work and dedication in establishing herself as a respected actress. In recent years, Jamie Lee has addressed the topic of nepotism in Hollywood, often referred to as the Nepo baby phenomenon. In a 2023 interview, Jamie Lee Curtis reflected on the role her parents' fame played in her own success, stating, "I have not shied away from it. I am not under any delusion that it hasn't had an effect and an impact." However, she also asserted her own merits and accomplishments, saying, "At the end of the day, none of that helps you when they say rolling and action." Jamie Lee's candid and balanced perspective on the Nepo baby debate showcased her self-awareness and determination to be recognized for her own talents and hard work. As the dust settled on the inheritance controversy, the focus shifted to the enduring legacy of Tony Curtis. Despite his personal struggles and the complexities of his family life, Curtis's impact on Hollywood remains undeniable. His performances in classic films like Some Like It Hot, 1959, and Spartacus, 1960, continue to captivate audiences, while his off-screen persona and tumultuous personal life have become the stuff of Hollywood legend. From his humble beginnings in the Bronx to his meteoric rise to fame, Curtis's journey was marked by both incredible highs and devastating lows. His struggles with addiction, failed marriages, and family conflicts paint a picture of a man grappling with the pressures of celebrity and the toll it can take on personal relationships. Yet, through it all, Curtis's talent and charisma shone through. His performances left a lasting mark on the film industry, and his influence can still be felt in the work of the many actors who have followed in his footsteps. Even in his later years, as he battled health issues and faced the challenges of aging, Curtis remained a beloved figure, celebrated for his contributions to the world of entertainment. The revelations made by Jamie Lee Curtis in the wake of her father's passing offer a glimpse into the complex family dynamics that shaped the lives of Tony Curtis's children. While the inheritance controversy and the Nepo baby debate may have garnered headlines, they ultimately showcase deeply personal struggles that often lie beneath the surface of Hollywood glamour. In the end, the legacy of Tony Curtis is one that will continue to inspire and captivate audiences for generations to come. His films, his artwork, and the impact on popular culture serve as a symbol of his enduring talent and the resilience of the human spirit. As his daughter Jamie Lee Curtis so eloquently put it, "My father leaves behind a legacy of great performances in movies and in his paintings and assemblages. He leaves behind children and their families who loved him and respected him, and a wife and in-laws who were devoted to him. He also leaves behind fans all over the world.